Nobody cares about your service. My mother's voice shrieked through the microphone, echoing across the lavishly decorated country club ballroom. 76 guests froze, champagne glasses suspended in midair. I stood there in my pristine army dress blues, my chest bearing the Bronze Star and 3 commendation medals. I had just returned from a grueling 14-month deployment in a high-threat zone, bleeding and sweating for my country. But to my mother, Eleanor, and my golden child brother, David, I was nothing but an embarrassment, a glorified servant in a uniform. The crowd stared, whispers breaking out like wildfire. My father, Richard, smirked from the head table, sipping his expensive scotch. They were celebrating David's engagement to a wealthy socialite, a party funded entirely by a secret they thought would never see the light of day. Humiliated, but refusing to let them see me cry, I turned on my heel and walked out toward the terrace. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a lifetime of suppressed rage. I breathed in the crisp night air, trying to find my military composure. Buzz. My phone vibrated violently in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was a text from David. "You ruined my night with that ugly uniform. If you don't transfer the remaining $10,000 for the catering bill by midnight, I'm telling Dad to lock you out of the family estate. You don't belong here, leech." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. The family estate? The $10,000? They really had no idea. Here is the secret they completely forgot. My family didn't own a single brick of that estate. 3 years ago, my father's fraudulent investments completely bankrupted them. They were days away from being thrown onto the street. To save them from public shame, I used my military signing bonuses, combat pay, and a highly confidential government intelligence stipend to secretly buy the mortgage. I had been paying every single bill, every car note, and even David's Ivy League tuition from my deployment bank account. They thought they were living off Dad's brilliant recovery. In reality, they were living off the blood I spilled overseas. I wiped a stray tear from my cheek. The pain was agonizing, but it instantly crystallized into a cold, lethal military focus. If they wanted a war, they just picked the wrong soldier. I looked back through the glass doors. My mother was now standing on a chair, loudly telling the guests that I was a mentally unstable, greedy, freeloading child who only joined the military because she couldn't cut it in the real world. She was actively launching a smear campaign to ensure David's new in-laws looked down on me. "Enough," I whispered to myself. I opened my military banking app. My fingers flew across the screen with brutal precision. I unlinked my primary funding account from the family trust. I locked the joint credit cards. I canceled the authorization for the country club payment. With 3 taps, I completely cut off their money. Suddenly, a massive, matte black government SUV pulled up to the valet stand right below the terrace. The windows were heavily tinted. The vehicle didn't belong to any of the country club members. It had federal plates. The driver's side door opened, and a tall, imposing figure in a dark trench coat stepped out. He didn't walk inside. He just stood there, looking up at the terrace, watching me. A strange chill ran down my spine. Who was that, and why were they watching this train wreck? I didn't have time. David walked out onto the terrace, his face flushed red with anger, holding his phone. "What did you do?" he hissed, grabbing my arm. "The country club manager just said our credit card was declined. The catering staff is about to stop serving. Fix it, you pathetic loser." I yanked my arm away, my eyes drilling into his. "Don't touch me, David." "Oh, look who thinks she's tough because she wears combat boots," my mother shouted, walking out onto the terrace, followed by a dozen curious guests. "Listen to me, Sarah. You will hand over your savings account routing number right now, or we will disown you. You are a disgrace to this family. Your service means nothing." The Grabs gasped. David sneered, confident he had won.
Then, heavy, rhythmic footsteps echoed from the doorway. The crowd parted. The man from the black SUV stepped into the light. He threw back his trench coat, revealing a 4-star Army general's uniform. It was General Marcus Vance, the entire commander of the Joint Special Operations Task Force, the absolute highest tier of military authority. The entire room went dead silent. My mother's mouth dropped open. My father instantly stood up, recognizing the sheer power standing before them.
General Vance didn't look at them. He walked straight up to me, stopped, and delivered a crisp, flawless salute. "Captain Miller," his voice boomed, commanding the attention of every person in the room. "I apologize for the delay. The Pentagon paperwork took longer than expected." I returned the salute, my heart pounding. "Sir, what are you doing here?" General Vance turned his piercing gaze toward my mother and brother. He pulled a thick, official manila folder from his coat. "I came to deliver a message," General Vance said, his voice dropping to a dangerous, icy register. "I couldn't help but overhear your comments about Captain Miller's service. Let me clarify something for you people." He opened the folder and pulled out a stack of certified financial and legal documents. "This house you live in, paid for entirely by Captain Miller's classified combat operations," the general announced to the entire room of 76 guests. "These cars you drive, registered under her military LLC. The money you spent on this very party was stolen from an account she set up to keep your fraudulent father out of federal prison." The silence in the room was deafening. My mother turned pale as a ghost. My father looked like he was about to faint. David began to stutter, That's a lie. Dad funds everything." "Is it?" I stepped forward, pulling out my phone and turning on the speakerphone. I called the real estate agent. "Hi, Janice. This is Sarah Miller. Proceed with the immediate foreclosure and sale of the estate. Evict the occupants by tomorrow morning." "Right away, Captain Miller," the agent responded before I hung up. I looked my mother dead in the eyes, the woman who had spent years tearing me down, abusing my kindness, and mocking my sacrifice. "You said nobody cares about my service," I said, my voice steady, filled with a terrifying calm power. "But the bank does, the deed does, and as of right now, you have exactly 12 hours to pack your bags and get out of my house." The explosion of noise was instantaneous. David's wealthy fiancée threw her engagement ring right at his face, yelling that she would never marry into a family of broke con artists. The guests began whispering furiously, turning their backs on my parents, completely disgusted by their cruelty and lies. My mother fell to her knees, sobbing, grabbing at my blue dress. "Sarah, please, we are your family. You can't do this to us. We have nowhere to go." My father buried his face in his hands, weeping openly as his fake status shattered into a million pieces. They were completely ruined, exposed as the arrogant, greedy parasites they always were. General Vance looked down at them with utter contempt, then turned to me. "Let's go, Captain. Your real family, the United States Army, has a promotion ceremony waiting for you." I turned my back on the weeping mess of my biological family and walked out of that country club with my head held high. The heavy weight of their manipulation finally lifted off my shoulders. If this story taught me anything, it's that blood doesn't make you family. Respect, loyalty, and honor do. You can never cure a toxic family with your own sacrifice. Sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is let them face the consequences of their own actions. What would you have done if your family treated you like this? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.